Welcome to the Property Talk Show, proudly brought to you by Ep3 Noble Property Developments. They own different opportunities that are out there for you, potential investors. They've got opportunities in Randfontein at a suburb called Green Hills. They're building a townhouse complex there with about 30 units. There's another opportunity in Randfontein at a suburb called Robin Park. There's another opportunity there. 24 units are coming up, townhouse development. They've got another one in Bears-Nodier around Krugersdorp, not far from Lanseria Airport, cradle of humankind. Also not far from the Silver Star Casino. You can also inquire about the latest one, which is getting a lot of people excited in North Riding Equestrian Estates, just next to Kiro Schools, not far from Olive Day Clinic, not far from the Dome, just right behind the Eagle Canyon Golf Estate, not far from Reimsig. There's also investment opportunities there, starting from 250,000. Click a link in the description. It'll take you to Ep3 Noble Property Developments platforms. You can inquire and speak to them as far as investing is concerned. Come join us. I'm the ambassador. I'm also a presenter of the Property Talk Show, proudly sponsored by them. But I'm also an investor. Every opportunity that I see, in every development where there's opportunities, I always grab a couple of properties or a couple of land for myself. So I'm also encouraging you guys to go see if there are any opportunities that might be attractive to you out there. I'm sitting with another property investor. This man is doing big things. You have to go follow all his social media platforms and see what he's doing in the property space. Young guy, but he's killing the game. For those who don't know him, he is the founder and CEO of Quality Growth International, which is a dynamic property investment, development, and management company. A property investor, he's a visionary leader, he's a writer, a public speaker, and a successful businessman in his own right. He started his career in property around 2008 when his mother funded his studies. He built back rooms at their family home, Metembisa. And you know, I'm saying 19, as big. He must look after the investment so that he can fund his university studies. He holds a Bachelor of Business Administration degree with a double major in Marketing and Strategic Management from Midrand Graduate Institute, Pearson Institute of Higher Education. He's got a certificate in Global Business from Regent College in London, and a postgraduate diploma in project management from Mankosa, the Management College of South Africa. He's very passionate about helping young Africans unearth their potential. He's an incredible human being. This is his brand new latest book. Go check it out. The book is called It's More Than Just Money, a guide to escaping the rat race and building generational wealth. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Property Talk Show on the Hustlers Corner platform, proudly brought to you by Ep3 Noble Properties, the man himself, Witness Mdaka. Shapujan. Proud of you, bro. Thank you so much. Proud of you, bro. Proud of you, bro.
For sure.
How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, my brother. How are you doing?
No, I'm always blessed.
I love the energy.
Sure.
You know, I feel like my energy is elevating as well. Just sitting here.
It's the alignment. It's like-minded individuals coming together.
For sure.
There's
Absolutely.
beautiful explosion of positive energy vibrating in this atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And as we are about to start, I'd like to know, for abantu abangakwazi out there, I know I've just mentioned what is written at the back of your book. Who is Witness Mdaka? Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Hola.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, guys, for those who don't know, this man he's an entrepreneur in his own right. This is his own coffee. And maybe to that camera over there, speak to the people, tell us who you are, and tell us about your coffee business. Maybe you can even get your products. I know you've got products. Quickly, go, yeah. You socially now nasi pamsa kuspete. Now miss pamsa nasi mo fire, you know. Melatla patis pamsa kendo. Di socially njani lempini ngapetang into zalo. Thank you. Check out the product, guys. Zoom into this. Check it out. It's called E-coffee.
Eco, yes.
Lebs' Cafe. Now tell us a little bit more about who you are and your business and sell it. There's a camera over there. Kuluma nabantu.
Thank you very much. My name is Lebohang Nyandeni. I'm the founder of Lebs Cafe, a coffee company that offers a wide range of coffee, including 100% freeze-dried premium instant coffee, Eco-Coffee, a South African coffee brand. I also do chai, tea. I also do hot chocolate. I also do coffee beans. So I'm a young person thriving in the coffee business. I'm making moves. And thank you so much for the shout-out. You can find me on my website, www.lebscafe.co.za, and you can shop my products over there on social media, Lebs Cafe, and also you can follow me, Lebohang Nyandeni.
Lebohang Nyandeni.
Yes, sir.
Why did you get into coffee and what makes your coffee services different from the rest?
So I got into coffee business because I used to drink coffee a lot with my grandmother when I was still staying with my grandmother, and I turned out the passion that I had for coffee to start my own brand. And also, you know, South Africa, we're facing a lot of challenges like load shedding, rising costs, interest rates. So I wanted to give people something that cannot be harsh on them, like load shedding and interest rates. So this coffee, it's made out of 2 different types of coffee beans, and we blended them together so that it can be well balanced. So once you drink it, it's not harsh on you like other things that are harsh on people. So life is harsh, your coffee should not be. That's what I wanted to put out there.
This is incredible. And Mina, I ordered a chai latte.
Sure.
And then tell us about what he ordered and what are other different type of coffees you offer.
So he ordered a cappuccino. So we also provide cafe services. You can book us all over SA. We travel, we come there, we set up a beautiful coffee stall. So he ordered a cappuccino. The beans that we use there are our coffee beans. So they are a blend of Arabica and Robusta also. It's medium roast. So we crush them. We prepared a nice cappuccino for you so that you can enjoy it.
Nice.
And we did a very beautiful chai latte over here. It's also a product. You can also shop it online and get yourself a bag and prepare at home.
Thank you, Lebs.
Thank you so much.
They call that an elevator pitch.
It is.
That was dope, ne?
Yeah,
He did
that's
that in a
dope.
minute.
I did it.
And he didn't even prepare. He didn't even know we were going to call him.
It's incredible.
Maybe we can start
A
there.
man
as a-
must always be prepared.
Thank you. Maybe let's start there as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
The elevator pitch and just always staying ready and always showing up. Let's start there.
Remember the quote that says, if you fail to prepare, then you are preparing to fail. I think it boils down to that, you know, so opportunity can come at any moment. And opportunity is not always what we see it as. You see, this young man prepared for coffee. For him, he was coming to serve coffee. He didn't even know that he's going to be called to come on stage and present his coffee. But it tells me, after him presenting the way he did, it tells me that every single day, uhlezi practice elevator pitch. Or he's constantly talking to people about his brand and his business, which makes it a lot easier at any point in time. You can see even if you wake him up at night, what do you do? He's going to tell you about coffee. You know, so for me as well, as a young person, young businessman, it's always been my mantra. You meet people, you're looking for investment, you need to be able to articulate yourself and present your business and your product in a manner that the next person is going to understand and buy into your story, you know.
Thank you very much, my brother. I'm very excited. Before we get into the book, there's a lot for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Who is Witness Mdaka and how did your property investment journey begin?
Yeah, so funny enough, I was born in Guyana. I was born in a hut. According to my mother, the ambulance was late. Then my parents separated 8 months after I was born. Stayed with my grandmother in a place called Klepgat. Then I came to Kopitor. Yeah. I stayed in Klepgat. I schooled there till about grade 6. Then my mother took me to come stay with her. And then in the year 2008, she discovered that she overpaid her house by 150,000 rands at the time. And she took that money, she built back rooms at home in Tembisa, and she said to me, if you want to go to university, you must look after these back rooms. And that's literally how I was introduced into property, because shortly after that, she had a stroke and she really couldn't look after the business, and I was the one who was supposed to do so.
How old were you then?
I was 18.
Okay.
I was 18, 17, 18 when she was building the back rooms. And that's how my journey into property investing started. At the time, I didn't even think of it as a business. I saw it as something that you collect the money, you buy groceries, you pay school fees, you know. But
Imali yabaqashi.
Imali
Inyuku ya
yabaqashi.
rent, yeah.
But certain things that my mother used to do that actually sparked my interest was that, or she bought me a car, you know, after she got the money, she bought me a car, a Corolla RXI. So I would drive her around, right? Everywhere she went, including the bank, when she needed to refinance, get the money so she could help me with the studies, she would take me with. And she would sit me down with the bankers and say, this is what I want to do. This is how much money I want. This is my son. You can explain everything to him. And that's really how my training started. I didn't think of it as training then. But subconsciously, I was being trained to be somebody who's going to look after a property business. I eventually graduated. I have a double major in marketing and business management. So I worked for a youth marketing company for 14 months. And then after that, I
It's
left.
a student village.
At Student Village.
Yeah.
I worked
You
for-
learn to hustle there.
I worked for Student Village. And when I was working there, some of the promotions I got, I created them for myself. You know, I started off as a campus manager, then I became a campaign manager, then I facilitated their training across the country.
Yeah.
3-4 months into my job, I had already created that role for myself. Then I was promoted. I was accounts manager when I left. You know, so for me, being in that environment that is fast-paced, that allows you to learn what entrepreneurship is all about, puts you in a position where you can start to take some of the systems and put them in your business. You know, funny enough, when I started at Student Village, I had other offers. I had an offer from a bank. I won't mention their name because I don't want to advertise them. I had an offer from a bank, but I didn't take the job. My mother said to me, if you want to start and get into an industry, work for somebody who runs their own business. Because if you work for a corporate, you will not meet the founders and the owners of that business. So you won't pick up as much knowledge from those people. You know, go to Student Village, work for them. I remember when I worked there as well, just before I left, I was poached by, I'll say Ep3 because they're no longer around. If you know Ep3, I was working on an Ep3 campaign.
That's Telkom Mobile.
Telkom
right?
Mobile now. I was working on that campaign and I was training the campus managers that were going to work on the campaign. And one of the bosses at Ep3 was there when I was presenting. And the guy offered me a job and offered me double my salary. So I went back to my mother and told her, you know, so you can see I was bouncing off a lot of ideas on my mother. So I went to her and said, okay, this is the offer on the table. And she said to me, I remember her words. She's like, Ronen is the owner of Student Village. She's like, Ronen gave you an opportunity when none of those people were there, and he trusted you to grow in his business. You started there in internship, then you went on to become campus manager, then you became a campaign manager, now you're accounts manager, and these people are recognizing you. You need to remain loyal because that's how you grow in your career. Don't chase money. You know, if you leave Ronen now and go work for Telkom, for me as your mother, I would have seen it as a disloyal thing to do. I want you to remain where you are so that you can learn as much as you can and leave only when you are ready. And I'll tell you why we had that conversation, because before I even went to Student Village, just after graduating, I wanted to start a laundromat at home, you know, at her house. We had a garage there. I had rented out the garage to the Pakistanis. They were running a shop there. So I wanted to take the room next door and create a laundromat there. And my mother asked me, what's your business plan? And I said, okay, the hospital is right around the corner, right? I'm going to wash their sheets and the clothes of the patients. Now, my mother is a nurse.
Yeah.
So she looked at me and said, in Xitsonga, she's like, "Ulakuteka machimba ya le xibedhlele. What is salam Because for her as a nurse, she knows what happens there. She knows what's on the sheets. I mean, when people are sick, there's all sorts of things that happen to their clothes and the sheets, right? And they call the family meeting with my grandmother, and my mother's like, this young boy went to school and he doesn't want to get a job. His business idea is to start a laundromat and bring a masimba. And my grandmother, I remember my grandmother said to me, is like, I want you to get a job. Not because I don't believe in you, but because I want you during lunchtime, uhlale phansi, itshama hansi, loko nwa kofi u ri ku tirheni, u hleketa ku ri u lava ku endla yini hi business ya wena.
Yeah.
Translated, I want you to sit down and think about what you want to do with your life and the business that you want to start. Because leya machimba yona hi yona. This one of shit is not the one, right? So be that as it may, I took the advice. I went on to work for Student Village and I learned a lot of things before I left. A friend of mine and I started a chain of stores. So we ended up taking over that spaza shop that was in our yard. Our plan was to compete with the Pakistanis. That was our grand plan. But eventually, we both left that business. And I went into construction. He went on to become a statistician. He's a smart guy. He works for one of the big corporates right now as a statistician. So for me, that's what it took to build me up to the person that I am now and to eventually start my company, Quality Growth International, which is a property investment, property development and management business, right? All that, after having done all those things, when I sat down and thought, like my grandmother had told me to think, it took me back to property. Because the thing was, what is the one thing that I've learned to do over the years better than I know how to do anything else? I knew how to collect rent. I knew how to evict people. I knew how to look after a property. I knew how to do maintenance. I knew how to make sure that I keep records. And that's how I was introduced into the business that I'm in, which is property investing.
That's incredible. The nature of this interview, I want it to be like a property beginners masterclass 101.
Yeah.
This is for young guys who are still at varsity, teenagers, well, even 40, 50-year-olds who probably still want to get into property. But
For sure.
For us, I just want us to focus on the basic things that you need to know to get into property or to invest in property or to build your own house. Or the cheapest or easiest way to invest in property or build your house or renovate your house or flip property. Whatever information that you think is relevant to a beginner's, a property masterclass, beginner's masterclass. Oh, guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
So starting from zero, right?
Yeah.
So the best investment you need to make, firstly, is an investment in yourself. And the best way to invest in yourself is through knowledge. Before you even start to think about, I want to buy a property, what is it that you need to accumulate? Like watching this podcast will be one of them. Reading this book, it's more than just money. A guide to escaping the rat race and building generational wealth is part of the process of actually learning how to start, right? If I'm a young person, forget the fact that I was given back rooms to manage, right? Not a lot of people are going to start with that kind of privilege. If I'm a young person, maybe even I don't have a job, the first thing I would need to do is learn to understand the property market, right? What is happening in the market and how can I be of value in the market, right? Do I even know how to select and look for a property for anybody to buy, let alone me, right? Because I don't have the money yet. But can I teach myself to find a property that I can buy, right? If I put an offer on that property, so let's say I didn't have any money at all, I'd learn all there is about property investing, how to select the property, what kind of a property I need to buy, whether it's a multi-let, whether it's a single property, whether it's the stance that you have, right? I would put an offer, say 250,000. I come to you, Ekasi, I'm witness, I'm 20 years old, I want to buy a stand, right? Before I even buy and sign an offer, you're not going to ask me if I've got money in the bank yet. Most of the time, it's not really anyone's business whether I've got the money or not. I signed the offer with you. I've signed the offer for a couple of days. That property belongs to me until I've paid the money, of course, right? Then I can take that same offer and find somebody else that has got the money to buy the property and sell the deal to that person, right? So some people call it sourcing, but literally it can be a back-to-back deal. I've bought this property on paper. I've signed the deal with Ekasi. I've bought it for 250,000 rands. Maybe the stands are finished in the stand. I go to the next person that I know has got the capacity to buy, has got the interest to buy, and they are an investor as well. I go to them, I've got this property, 250,000. There's nothing left other than this one. If you give me 270, you can have it. Or you can have the deal for a 10,000 rands markup on the price that I paid for it. Right? That's how you start. I have people, even in my own property business, guys that don't own agencies, that say to me, I'll find you tenants. The tenants will pay me admin fee. I don't necessarily have to have you pay me anything to bring me a tenant. I need you to give me access to your property so that I can show my prospective tenants. Those guys come, they show the tenant likes the place, they have the tenant sign a lease, of course that would be my lease, and the tenant pays the guy, we call it a finder's fee, but what they usually call it is an admin fee of some sort, to say, I found this place, the rental is 5,000, I'll give you 300 rands for having found this place for me, right? Or I'll give you 750 rand, whatever the charge is. What this says to me is that those guys are involved in the property industry, whether they own a property or not. I think when people think about property, they always think of it as, I need to be owning the property before I can be a player in the market. But they forget that an economy has different kinds of players within that market, right? If I don't have the capacity to buy, I know somebody who can, I know somebody who's selling, I might not be an agent. Maybe if I'm not an agent and I'm interested in being an agent, I need to get in and become an intern with an estate agency and learn the ropes of buying and selling a property, learn the ropes of managing a property, because I'm starting and I've got zero. Now, next level is, once you've got that income, how do you formalize it? Because you're starting out and you are being paid this money in an informal manner. This money needs to be recorded in a business, in an account, so that the bank can recognize it as income, so that you can have financials, right? And if you're making enough, you're paying yourself a salary so that you too can be recognized as an earning entrepreneur, an entrepreneur that earns a salary. There is a chapter in my book that talks about formalizing your informal business, that even if you are selling on the streets, you need to be able to take that money and put it in an account that records every month, so that you can have a track record and say to the bank, I don't have to take out some papers to show you how much I made. Here are my bank statements. I need to buy a property. And that's how you get recognized and get put into the mainstream property economy, right? Once you've done that, there's also things like flips with the government, right? If a guy's earning 3,501 rands, between that and 22,000 rands, that guy qualifies for a subsidy from the government. If they can get a bond from the bank that says, we're giving you a bond for a property, 250,000 rands or 500,000 rands, the government will subsidize depending on how much they're earning, right? They'll give them, if they're earning 3,501 rands, I think the most you can get is about 122,000 rands towards your property purchase. If you are earning 22,000 rands, which is like the maximum, the most you can get is about 27,000 rands towards your property purchase. Now, this money you can use even for transfers. You can even use for a deposit towards the property. The main thing is get into the market, learn to get some form of income, right? So that you can learn to also formalize that income, so that you put yourself in a position where the bank recognizes you as somebody that is earning an income and therefore is eligible to get a loan.
So for lack of a better sentence, building your balance sheet
You have
and
to
building
build-
trust with the bank. So that at some point you become smart enough to use the bank's money. And the
Yeah.
bank will trust you with their money, or what they would call in a form of credit.
Yeah.
Because you've proven through the data over the past 6 months or past year
Yes.
that you are a monthly income, an income generating entrepreneur.
Yes.
And you are also able to be responsible with your finances, because the bank has got all the data. You can't lie to the bank.
You can't lie to the
So
bank,
then
yeah.
it's easier for the bank to trust you. Then it's easier for the bank to offer you credit or overdrafts or loans.
Yeah.
Then you can be smart enough to use then the bank's money to start purchasing property. Am I wrong or right?
You are right. Absolutely. So business is about relationships, right? So even your relationship with the bank is very important. I've seen people say, I owe the bank, I won't answer the phone. If you're in the red, the best you can do is to work your way out of that so that you can be in a position where you can go back to the same bank and say, I want to borrow X amount of money to buy a property. So here's an interesting thing. The bank can give you any amount to buy a property, right? But you know the bank won't borrow you money to buy their own shares that are listed on the stock exchange. A stock exchange that is regulated. They won't give you the money.
Why not though?
Because it's a lot easier for a bank to trust that they can get back their immovable property than they would to trust their own stock
I get you.
that is listed on the stock exchange.
So in other words, property is a trusted investment.
Property is, you look at the cornerstones of wealth creation over the years. Business, property, shares. To make money, it's either you've got a business or you work in a business. Doesn't really matter who you are. Even if you inherited the money, the person you inherited the money from either worked for a business or they ran a business. Right? That's the cornerstone of wealth creation. From the days of Jesus and Abraham, those guys were trading. They were selling livestock. They were running farms. When Jesus was born, it says he was born in a manger, right? Because the inn or the hotel where he was supposed to be born was full. That's in the Bible, 2,000 years ago. When Jesus was born, I think the guy was, the business, he was making money that day, right? Property, same example. That guy was a property owner as well, many years ago. Wars have been fought for property. So those two things have always been the cornerstones of wealth creation. Yes, shares as well is a cornerstone of wealth creation. You buy somebody's shares, whether listed or unlisted, so that you could make some money. But the most trusted out of all of this for the bank to borrow anyone money is property. Because it's an asset that either naturally appreciates in value, retains value. You can take $1 million today and put it in a property. You are sure that it will retain value over the years. Even if the value changes or drops, it won't drop a lot, like other things like Bitcoin. All right? It's regulated. It's regulated by the buyer and seller market, and it doesn't drop. It continually grows in value. You can force it to appreciate in value. You can buy a property now. You talked about flipping earlier on. You can buy a property now, put value in the property, change the kitchen, right? And sometimes, let me show you something. With commercial, right? Obviously, this is not beginners, but I'll explain this. With a commercial building, I don't necessarily have to put value on the property for the value of the property to go up. I can buy a commercial building, right, whose rental is 30,000 rands, for instance, right? That simply means, in simple terms, the value of the property is 3 million. And I raise, after buying it, I raise the rental by like 10,000 rands, maybe 1,000 rands per tenant, argument's sake. By raising the value of the property, the rental only, by 10,000 rands, do you realize I've raised the value of that property by 10
1 million.
Yeah, by a million,
Potential,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, by
Yeah,
a million.
yeah.
By a million, you're right. I've raised it by 1 million. What have I done to that property? What value have I added? Zero value. All I did is buy a building that has got tenants that are existing. I went in and renegotiated the lease. Usbuda begak patala 5,000. Now, we both patala usbuda 5,000. I don't want 5,000. My rental is 6.5. By you agreeing to that 6.5, the value of my commercial property automatically goes up. And I can take that, go back to the bank and say, my balance sheet has grown. Look how much this property makes me. I want to buy another one. And against that 10,000 rands increase, which is 1 million in value, I can borrow money. How easy is that? Which stock is going to give you that? None, right? Most businesses, although, to run a business and be an entrepreneur is not for everyone. There's a certain level of, I don't call it intelligence. I think it's called stick-to-itivity. You need to be willing to stick to the pain for you to grow the business. Now, not many people can withstand and handle that pain. Now, with property, even if you are not entrepreneurial like myself and other business people, you can own a property and raise it in value and make money out of it, right? That's as simple in terms of understanding it as a beginner. Mhlambe, somebody sitting there doubting, Why would I want to start and do this thing? You want to start because it's the easiest investment you can get into, right? The bank is willing. They're doing campaigns and saying, let us give you home loans. Umele, you earning 10,000 and somebody is willing to give you 250,000 rands to buy a building that's going to grow in value, to buy a property or a flat or whatever it is that's going to grow in value. And that value belongs to the owner, which is you. Why wouldn't you do that?
You know why?
Why?
Because mentally nasakula.
Yeah.
Basenze, or let me say ngesintu kapaka ka language tsa rona. Iskoloto.
Yeah.
But then let's break down this word in English.
Yeah.
There is credit or there's debt. Or other people say there's good debt and there's bad debt. Let's get into that.
Yeah. So bad debt is, even credit cards are bad debt.
And sorry, with what I've just said, we have been indoctrinated to believe nasakulu iskoloto kintwempi arevaki.
Yeah.
But there's actually what they would call good debt, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'll give you an example based on that. My grandmother bought everything cash when we were growing up because she believed that the bank is not going to borrow her money and nakona debt is bad. My grandmother was an entrepreneur. She ran a tavern in Alexander. And she made, from her job as a street sweeper for the city of Joburg, she was making less than 2,000. But from her tavern, she was making over 15,000 rands every month. Back in the day, in the 90s, right? So if somebody knew these things in my family that I'm talking about, my grandmother would be a multi-millionaire.
If I knew the things I know now, which is actually what we're talking about now as a 43-year-old,
Yeah.
if I knew this, ngenkathi nasaqala abo TS Records,
Yeah,
I probably would be a billionaire by now.
Of course you would be.
Yeah,
Of course you
yeah.
would be.
That's
Because
why
the cash was there.
Thank you, bro.
The cash to reinvest was there.
And that's why, Tina, because we've walked the journey, that's why we have to simplify it as much as we can for intwana zethu ezibukele manje. So
For
you
sure.
guys, you don't have to go niyoshaisana namabonda njengathi. You can learn from us here, go do your research. When you're happy, go consult financial advisors and professionals and go in and do what we're telling you to do here. It's
Yeah.
easier. So we're passing on the knowledge. Sorry, continue.
So good debt, bad debt, right? Let me give you an example, rather. Practical example. Here are two guys, right? They want to buy a property. For lack of a better example, a city, this property is 2 million, right? Guy number one takes 2 million rands, buys a property. 100%. These guys both have 2 million cash. Guy number one buys the property. His rental is 20,000 rands. He's enjoying his money. He doesn't owe anyone. If he misses a payment, he doesn't miss any payments. He owes no one, right? He's getting his 20,000 rands, argument's sake, every month. Now, guy number two takes the same 2 million and deposits 200,000 rands on 10 properties. It's the same 2 million. He spreads it across 10 properties, 200,000, 200,000, 200,000, 200,000, right? The value of the money that they put in the portfolio is 2 million each, right? But here's the difference. This one has got a 2 million rands portfolio. This one here has got a 20 million rands portfolio because he used debt as leverage to buy more properties and not just one, right? He financed each of them because he had a deposit. The bank was like, cool, we need deposit. If you've got a deposit and you afford, the bank gives you the property. I say again, Lentoguti banks that don't give black people money to buy property. They do. I don't know if they give them the same interest rates as other races. That's a different story. I don't know. But I do know that they'll give it to that person, right? This one takes the 2 million, spreads it across 10 properties. 200,000 rands deposit each. Now, let's say next year, property values go up, right? Before we even get to property values, they're getting rentals. This one is making 20,000 rands a month rental, right? This one here on the balance sheet, he's got 200,000 rands income because he's got 10 properties rented at 20,000 rands each. Yes, he's got debt on those properties, but remember, his gearing is only 80% because he put in a 200,000 rands deposit. He's got a 20% deposit on each of those properties. Or it's 10%. It's got a 10% deposit, right? So the rental is slightly higher than what he pays the bank on a monthly basis in terms of his thing, excluding other costs, obviously. Now, we say next year we are raising the rental. Guy number one, who owns that property, raises his rental by 10%. His rental is now 22,000 rands. Guy number two, remember we're working based on the value of the money you've put in. You've put in 2 million. Guy number two, who put in the exact same 2 million, raises his rental by 2,000 rands per tenant. How much is that? 20,000 rands.
That's 20,000 rands, yeah.
But this guy has invested the same amount as this guy. Why is his rental increase only 2,000 rands? You know why? He doesn't have leverage. He doesn't have more assets to play around with. Whereas this guy has got 10 tenants, although some of the money belongs to the bank. But the increase in the rental income now belongs directly to that person. He's increased his rental, low increasing at 2,000. Even this one is increased by the same 2,000, but spread across 10 tenants. He's got 20,000 rands like that, more cash flow than the other one. Now, taking it back to property value increase, right? This guy's property grows by 10% from 2 million to 2.2 million, 2.2 million. So he's making his equity there is 200,000 rands increase. Now this guy's got 10 properties, remember, of the same value, but he has got a lot, right? He owes the bank 1.8 million on each. Now the value of these property grows from 2 million to 2.2 million, 200,000 rands each. How much is that guy making on just the value of the properties?
That is crazy because that is times 10 now.
It's 200,000 rands times 10. How much is that?
That's 2 million.
2
bro.
million. Does he have his 2 million rands back? Of course. What is that? Leverage. Whose money did he use? The bank's
The
money.
bank's money.
And he can go back to the same banks and say, now I want to refinance. Not only do I want to refinance.
So before you continue, what is to refinance?
To refinance is where, when the value of your property goes up, right? You can go back to the bank and say, I want to refinance my property. I bought it for 200,000, for 2 million. Now the value is 2.2 million. Give me another bond that covers the entire value of the property. So the 2 million would cover the existing bond. The 200,000 is given to you as your cash, tax-free. It's called. You don't have to pay a SARS.
So that's a
for that money.
refinancing.
That's a refinancing.
Thank you. Let's continue. Sorry for
Right?
disturbing.
So he goes back and refinances these properties. Now 2.2 million rands each. Remember I put up a deposit of 200,000, right? When he is refinancing these properties, now the value on every property is no longer just 200,000 that he deposited. There's that extra increase in value of 200,000 rands. So this guy has got 400,000 rands per property. Now 400,000 rands times 10 is 4 million. And he can refinance that money tax-free. Doesn't pay tax. The bank pays 4 million into his account. Now let's assume our friend on the left catches on and says, I also want to refinance. Guess how much he's only getting? Although he paid that cash. Even if he refinances the entire value of the property, he's only getting 2.2 million. This guy, in 2-3 years, just on leverage, far outperforms and is far more wealthier than the guy who bought cash. And those are the secrets that have been hidden from, I don't think they've been hidden from people anyway. It's been existing. It's been around. I mean, I said that my mother would go with me, would refinance a property, Stoliman, and pay school fees.
It's exactly what I was saying earlier. It's that mindset of, Skolota is more problems.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
So this thing has always been there. Those who've taken advantage of it have made money from it. So in terms of property 101, it's a lot better to borrow money from the bank and use it for your investments. You get somewhere quicker. But here's the thing. Bad debt, good debt. Debt is like this, right? It's like an explosive. You can take an explosive and go to the mines and mine gold. Or you can take the same explosive and blow your house down. It all depends on how you use it, right? You can take the same 2 million and buy yourself a nice Porsche, second hand, 911. Ubangene strong. And sokushayela izandla. And futhi sokukhalela. Nathi ama property investor deep down sayifuna le Porsche. But angithi we still investing. We are sacrificing. But you can take the same Porsche and buy those properties, 200,000 rand each. Of course, you've got the balance sheet. You are able to make 2 million. You've got the capacity to make more. That 2 million unlocks 20 million rands for you. Or it can buy you a Porsche. Which one would you rather do? And my mother died without owning a car. You know that? The first car my mother bought was the car she bought for me as a teenager. But now that my mother is late,
I'm sorry about that, my brother.
yeah,
May his soul rest in peace. Yeah.
may a beautiful soul rest in peace.
Guys, if you still have parents, value them, treasure them.
Absolutely.
Some of us, I don't have my biological father anymore. May his soul rest in peace. I don't even have my stepfather who brought me up. And every time I get an opportunity to speak about this, I always say to people, if usampano nalbatswadi ba haba lithu ba phila boyithu abazali bakho, if basakuphilela basaphila, no matter differences you have with them, no matter how angry you are with them, no matter whatever, you have to treasure them, spend as much time as you can with them. If you've got kids, make sure their grandkids are spending time with them, and just value your time with your parents on this earth. Because once they are no longer around, I mean, there's nights where
Yeah.
you know, like entathakusa time, and there's just certain things in life as you grow older and you experience, and there's no better other person that you can sit with than your parent, and
For sure.
you can want these answers, and it's sad when they're no longer around. So guys, treasure your folks. Sorry, continue, bro.
Yeah. No, I agree with that because nami no gungshaya, you know, all these things you say to me, Mdaka, you're doing well. Sometimes I wish Oledi was here to see that and say, my boy, the investment I made in you, I see it. But you can't. To knock shy deal, all you can do is go back home and celebrate. You can't call anyone. Or you can call friends, it's not the same. You can call mentors, it's not the same. But to call that person who's got genuine love for you without expecting anything in return, now that's priceless. And only a mother can give you that. But anyway, she's late now, but my younger brother can still collect rental from her house. Do you understand that? I mean, she could have rented for 30 years. Do you know that? I mean, there are people who rented and bought cars. She didn't have a car. She bought a property. There are rooms there. She's no longer around. And my younger brother can still collect rent.
That's what we call generational wealth.
That's what we call generational wealth, right? Because even if she was still alive, let's say, let me give you an example, right? So people usually say, no, banks are ripping you off. Don't buy a property. But here's the thing. You rent for 20 years, right? God forbid something happens to you. What do your kids get? Zero, unless you built a successful business. Not many people have got. We grew up in the township. We've seen people we've grown up with. Not all of them were able to build successful businesses, right? So buying a home literally gives you entry level into being an investor. You've got forced savings. You are paying for this thing. Even if it's not an investment property, you are paying this thing every month. You are forced to pay it over a period of time. Now, one guy could say, I want to rent for 20 years. Second guy says, I'm going to buy a home for my kids. I might not be a sophisticated property investor, but I want my kids to have a place to sleep, right? That guy can take out income protection, death protection. If he dies, insurance pays off the bond, and the kids have got a paid-up property. Now, Maurentile Ufa, what does it cover? The kids must go find a place to sleep. Now, here's another thing. What people don't understand. Let's say your kid is 1 right now and you buy a property. 20 years from now, 18 years from now, the kid is going to varsity, right? That same property that you bought and is as an investment property, you can take equity from it and pay the kid's school fees. Or you can sell that property, buy a property in the town where the kid is going to varsity, umthengele property lapho kube student accommodation somntanakho. He will stay in that property as a student and have other students stay there with him
Bamkhafi rent.
and pay him rent.
And that's what can kick off his career.
That kicks off
He
his
can
career
even take this rental income up by any property.
and buy another property. And now that property is even paid off cash. You can use it as collateral. You can go to the bank and say, I want to buy a franchise. I've got a property worth 700,000. Now I am putting it up as collateral. Akasebenzi, but they give him money. Why? He's got collateral. There's something the bank can take from him if he doesn't pay to help build a foundation for that business, for that entrepreneur that you're grooming. You have to start thinking about how I invest in things that are easy to get to, and property is one of them. It's the easiest to get into.
It's so incredible how you've simplified it. And now let's get into the book while we continue the conversation of property. And you've already touched on I'm on table of contents. Significance is calling. Will you answer? I think you touched on that. Your world exists first in your head. You've touched on that personal development.
Yeah.
It's all about the mindset. You've touched a little bit on that. Don't start unless.
You are finished. Yeah. So us who are in the built environment, as in the construction, engineering, and project management, right? Before we start a project, we have the end goal in mind. You have the architect draw the plans, tell you what the building is going to look like. You even choose a paint color sometimes, right? So before the builder starts to lay the brick, we already know what the property is going to look like, right? So even us in our personal lives, right? Your dreams, your goals, your vision. What does it look? What does the end goal look like? Like, it's crazy to start doing something where you don't even know where you're going. You've built so many businesses. I'm sure when you were starting, yes, being abonagad, but at the back of your mind, you had that thing that you were reaching for, that if this business can reach that amount, I'm successful. If it doesn't reach that amount, I'm not successful. Like, people can come and say, you built more fire, it's so successful. To you, because you've got that end goal in mind, you started there, you're like, I'm not successful yet.
I work backwards.
I haven't reached there yet. You guys are seeing this, but you are not seeing what I'm seeing.
I always say to people, when people congratulate you or when you're celebrating, that's an old dream. And people don't know, in your mind, you're already so far off and you've passed that moment a long time ago.
Yes.
So when people are saying congratulations, they don't understand mentally, "Dala wadlula lapho."
You're on the next milestone.
And you are not even celebrating because you know what I mean? Like,
there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So I always say this, right? Growing up, I started early in the property industry. I had gotten married, I'm divorced now. But when I was married, we were building a portfolio as a family, right? And a friend of mine always used to say this to me. Why is it that after every project, you don't sit and celebrate your money and enjoy it? You immediately start another project. Why do you do that to yourself? It's like, if I was you, my brother, and project was successful, I'd take some moment to enjoy, drive that nice car, move into a better home. And I understand where he was coming from, because he wasn't seeing what I'm seeing, right? You could reach 10 million in turnover or 10 million in portfolio, right? For someone, it's an opportunity to enjoy. And then to you, you see it as a seed that has been planted for that multi-billion rand portfolio. So when someone is enjoying, you're looking at them and saying, look at this one, he's eating the seed. Because there's nobody else that is going to come back and replace that money that you've worked hard for to build in that portfolio. There's a goal in place, right? And that protects you against your own stupidity. Vision is a protection. Mangne vision is protect. I'm protecting myself. Because if I make 1 million or 10 million and somebody says, let's enjoy, the vision is saying build, right? The vision is protecting me. It is saying reinvest. You haven't reached there. You still have to do this and that and that and that.
Our witness, our sbuda, sikuboni nange Porsche nyana, nge Ferrari nyana. Mfana kanti, ngoba siyayibona into zakho zihamba crane, into zakho marikanti manje. They don't understand that.
They don't understand that, right? And it's a painful thing to go through. I'm telling you, you could be driving a better car, but you choose to drive a car that's less than because the vision is protecting you from doing that.
Specialize until you are special.
Yeah. I'm here because I'm special, don't you think? There's something about me that I've been willing to do over the years, the last 2 years, because I've been in the background building my businesses. But as soon as I came into the public, there was something that I was good at that no one can take away from me. I'm very good at managing property. I'm very good at doing project management. I'm very good at building a property investment portfolio. And I'm good at teaching other people to do the same. That's a special thing. But it took time to work on this thing so that I could specialize until I was special. Right?
The smart way to set up.
The smartest way to set up a business, right?
Smartest, sorry, yeah.
The smartest way to set up. Yabona ukuthi ngibhalile.
Yeah.
Abangibhalelanga yona.
Sure.
So the smartest way to set up your business, that was written to families, right? Because as a family, every single day you've got consumables that you are buying, right? But you could literally just set up a business that is doing supplies to your family. That business could be the one that buys your groceries, pays your school fees, pays your DSTV. All you do, you earn a lump sum from your salary, and the business invoices you. It says, for the rent, for la ohlala khona, for the school fees, for this, for that, for the consumables, it's 20,000 rands. And then from your 30,000 rands salary, you pay the invoice to the business. And the business has got a client. Who's the client?
You.
You give the money to everybody else anyway. So you pay the business, and the business goes. Now, Zota Kalukabanga is a businessman. You need to make a profit in that business. You're not just going to walk into any retailer and buy anything. Now you're going to look at prices. Is it better to go to a wholesaler to get the more fire, or is it better to get it from the garage where it's more? Now, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to the wholesaler because it's cheaper. Why? I'm setting up my business. Now, 20 years from now, that business has been trading for 20 years. Even if I did nothing else other than serving my family, I can take that same business, which has got a track record of 20 years banking, and give it to my daughter and say, go tell the bank to borrow you money, give you a credit card, start another business.
5 chapters, 1 minute each. We've got 5 more minutes to go.
Yeah.
Your first business, which is page 45.
That's the
Sorry,
same.
your first business, your first business transition into property ownership.
Okay, that's the next chapter, because the chapter is the smartest way to set up your business. The next one is transitioning into property ownership. Now that goes back to all of those things we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. To say formalize, if you're in an informal business, formalize it. If you're an earning individual that's got a payslip, right? Learn ways to start to invest in property. Look at the strategies available to invest in property. Are you going to buy to let? Are you going to do multi-lets? Are you going to do Airbnb? Even as a family, you don't necessarily have to own a property, like I said, for you to rent it out. I can rent a property from you and put in nice furniture and put it up on Airbnb. One of our businesses, that's what it does. You know, it rents different properties, puts it on the market for Airbnb, and it makes money, and we own 0 of those properties. We're in the market, we're in the industry.
Formalize your informal business.
Yeah, formalizing your informal business goes back to what I said. If you're an entrepreneur, you're running a business, do you have a pay slip? Do you have an income? Are you paying yourself a salary? Or yonke imali uyayidla nje kuphela? Right? You have to understand something. Your business is not you, and you are not your business. Those are 2 separate things. You know, you are smooth, there's more fire. Those 2 things are not the same. If you've got your small more fire where you tengisa makanda, let it have its own bank account where it's accumulating its own track record, and decide how much you need on a monthly basis, and pay yourself that as a salary, so that you can also pay SARS what's due to SARS. And over the years, you are building a track record for your business and for yourself.
Why property investing is the best strategy to make you rich?
Yeah, there are 15 reasons, and I won't go through all of them, right? First one being it retains value. Second one, naturally appreciates in value. Thirdly, you can force it to appreciate in value. And most interesting one, right? It's got tax benefits. You know, governments across the world love property investors more than all their citizens, because you can buy a property, right? and it's an investment property in another city. When going to check on it, that's tax deductible. There's taxes that are tax deductible. All your rates and taxes are tax deductible. There are benefits to owning a property. It gives you passive income. Warren Buffett says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work for money until you die. What that simply means is that if you don't have an asset like a property that is generating an income for you, things will be tough because you don't have the value of leverage working on your behalf. Now, here's the nice thing. It can grow in value while simultaneously giving you cash flow.
Why property investing is misunderstood?
Yeah. Property investing is misunderstood. You know why? A guy will start out and go buy a unit in a 1,000 unit development. Now, of course, you have to apply logic. If you've got a 1,000 unit development, it means, and you're buying one unit, it means you have 1,000 other investors that you're competing with for a tenant. But if you go buy at a 50 unit, how many people are you competing with? 50. Only 50. And now let's take it closer. If you buy at a 25 unit development or a 30, I heard you say you've got a 30 unit development. If you buy the 30 unit development, how many people are you competing with for a tenant? Only 30.
Only 30.
And that's what people don't understand. The same way you've got supply and demand in every other business, you will always have supply and demand in the property industry. And you have to understand that. What is the supply in the area? What is the demand?
There's always pros and cons. This chapter here says pitfalls of property investing.
Yeah, pitfall, you can get your hands burnt. Eh? You can over capitalize in a property. You get into an area where the property values are very low and you're putting value on your property. You're renovating it, you're developing it. Like those people about Akama double story cars, they won't get the value of the property back. No one is going to give you 2 million rands for a property, a residential property, a hospital view, lamina now a school accord. It's not possible, right? But they'll give you 1.2. But if you overinvest, that's a pitfall. Now you want to sell, you've lost 700,000 rands because you've invested a lot more than you should. Right? So it can be something that burns you. Too much leverage can burn you. Too much money that you've borrowed against the non-performing property portfolio can burn you. So you have to be aware of that as you get into the market. That is Shiles Bonil, where you realize, no, I shouldn't have over-invested there. You choose a bad location and tenants don't want to live in it. That's a pitfall. You're not going to make any money.
And sometimes natural causes happens.
Natural
Maybe
causes
you're not far
happen.
from the mines. Chemical into that area.
Yes.
People don't want to invest there anymore.
They don't want to live there.
They don't want to live there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
There's
right?
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
And by the way, before we continue and wrap it up, Ekasi, in one of your Ekasi properties, like Elokshin, a lot of your investments are in Tembisa. What's the most you've received from one Irumin Eli one? What's the most one can charge? If I want to turn my old 4-room house in Kulele Ekasi, ngifuna ukufaka ama room ngiyithene into a 10-room Airbnb or lack of a better word, or lodge, or what is it?
Rental.
B&B,
Yeah.
bed and breakfast, or rent, whatever you want to call it.
Ekasi, I'm not sure about BNB.
Because ngiyazi aqala kuboma 1.2, 1.5, 1.8,
So-
2,000.
Yeah, so Ekasi, I'm not sure about BNB. I'm sure about monthly rentals. Depending on what
No,
you
nangithi B&B is bed and breakfast.
bed and breakfast. Yeah, so that's what I'm
charge a different.
but charge a different.
So sikhuluma
yes.
ngenyanga.
That's
yeah.
a daily rate.
Yeah.
So on a monthly basis, depending on what your units look like, you can get about 4 grand.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I thought the most you could get is 2.5.
No, you can
You
get
can't get 4 grand.
You can get 4 grand.
That is if you probably have things like Wi-Fi, good security, you've got
You
cameras.
don't even have to have Wi-Fi or good security. You just have to have a good-looking unit that is close to the hospital, and nurses love it. They'll give you 4 grand.
Yo. Le pare ngathi khuluma nami ngamabomu ithi that is next to your hospital. Ngisho mawuledu wami ubukele le episode. Awumbize leyo mfana kaze lazo uthini 4,000.
So there's a family. I mean, I don't want to obviously reveal the person's identity, right? So, but there's a family. I'll say he's more like a father to me. You know, one of the guys that mentored me. I redeveloped his property in Hospital View, right? It had It was a normal 3-bedroom house. I put 8 units. Developed the existing property, put 8 units. The most you get from that property is about 4.2. It's next to the per unit. 1 unit, 4.2. In Hospital View, Ep3 in the township.
So if you've got 10 of them, it's making you 40 grand.
Yeah, if you've got 10 of
Forever.
those. But he doesn't have 10 of those because they differ. Some
Yeah,
are,
yeah, I get
some
you.
are 3 grand, some are 4 grand, some are 3. The least in that property is 3 grand.
It's very important for me to touch on this because most of our audience is Sukulele Lokshin.
Lokshin,
So I think
yeah.
pretty much almost everybody can relate.
Yeah, everybody can relate. So although we don't do a lot of developments in the Ep3 anymore, we still have units Ep3 because that's where I started, right? And those are the rates. You know, when I started and was risking it, I thought I was crazy. I started charging like 3.5 in 2014, 15.
Wow.
Not now. People are getting into the market now. Back then, that's what we used to charge. But obviously, there were different things that we were doing as a business. You reinvest the money, you buy more properties, and yeah, that money is chowed by other things.
For me, I look at this as a place where, you know, you're going to be a friend of the show. I'm not choice.
I'm not sure.
It's ringy language.
Yeah.
You know, like we've got Abo Nota who come often, Abo Penuel who come often, like they're the friends of the show.
For sure.
So
for
I
sure.
see as one of those people, whenever you've got, you know, time to come and share, because
Yeah.
this is not enough.
You've got
You
my
know,
number.
There's part 2 we have to do. There's part 3 we have to do. This is, what is it? Property Beginners Masterclass with Witness Mdaka, part 1.
Yeah. And you must tell people to attend my seminars across the country. I did a tour last year. It's more than just money movement tour, where I meet people that have bought the book and more people that are interested in the movement, where we discuss business, property, shares. Now, just conscientizing people with entrepreneurship, because I believe that for the country to prosper, the citizens must prosper. And they must prosper individually and in their families. And that way, when we come together, we are all prosperous people coming together. 20 years from now, when I buy my daughter a Bentley, I don't want your daughter to be jealous. I want you to also be ready to buy your own daughter a Bentley. It must be normal for our kids to drive Bentleys.
The name of the book is It's More Than Just Money, a guide to escaping the red race and building generational wealth by Witness Mdaka. Yasek Aslam. Thank you so much for coming through, bro.
Thank you, Grootman.
Sure. I'll see you very soon. Ne?
Yeah, we'll see each other
This
soon.
song. I'm very excited, man. I love this man. I'm looking forward to also inviting him coming through to our Ekasi Noble Property Development seminars. I'm looking forward to being invited by him on some of his great work because I think we're all like-minded and our message is similar and our mission is also the same, to liberate the mindsets of young people out there. So, nizoba rich ngenka, nina ngabe rich. Plus intole kahle la ku internet akunakuthi SABC one yasixosha or anything. Nizoba rich ngenka. Proudly brought to you by Ekasi Noble Property Development. Thank you very much, guys. Follow his social media platforms. Go get the book. Lots of knowledge he's dropping. Lots of inspirational messages, motivational messages. Lots of gems around creating your own wealth. Because sometimes, yes, motivation is good. But I like people like him who don't just offer you inspiration or motivation, but they offer you actual practical solutions on how you can change your life wherever you are. Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, son.
Danke.